Namaskar, hello, and a very warm welcome to all you wonderful people present here. I am Rupali Suri, and of course, I'm here to. I feel very, very privileged to be a part of this entire forum here. It is such an exciting forum. This is the third day, and the last 2 days were so exciting where we had conversations about so many people, interesting people from different facets coming together. And well, they all are talking about entrepreneurship. They all are talking about how to start up. They all are talking about how this our nation can work and be together and be that mark of globalization there in sync with each other. Well, it has been very enterprising. I have got a chance to hear some amazing legends who have been on this platform. And yes, the next session that we are going to hear is going to be something that will motivate us and will open our mind to a further conversation to create more bank of knowledge and more bank of giving out that exposure in the world. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, let me not take any more time, and I will welcome you to the Thai Global Summit 2020 presented by Control S. Well, now here we have a very interesting conversation for which I would like to call upon, and of course, he's right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the CEO of Cloud4C RPA Solution. This is Mr. Sunil Putoda.
Thanks,
Hello,
Rupali. Thank
and of
you.
course, I will give you the chance to conduct this entire session. I am very eager because there are so many things that it is about. I believe it is about something. Can you just help me with this? Because being from a field of fashion and being an actor, there are so many things that I am so inquisitive to know. I believe that you will actually unleash small little details out of it so that there are so many participants, so many viewers watching this show, and they will benefit out of it. And we have
Sure.
Mr. Guha here. And hello, Mr. Guha.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am good. Thank you. I hope you're fine. You're
Good.
safe wherever you are.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Putoda, I will leave it up to you. This is your session. Kill it.
Thank you, Rupali. Thank you. Very good afternoon to all, and a warm welcome to this session. And Rupali, this session is on aiming automation's singularity. So we'll talk all about automation.
Well, that's there.
Thanks, Rupali.
Okay, sir.
So,
Looking forward to hear you.
thanks, Rupali. Before we let Guha speak, I just wanted to introduce about Edgework as a company. Edgework is a global leader in AI and automation products. The technology empowers enterprises globally to bring life to their digital transformation initiatives. Enterprises today operate in extremely disruptive environments with fast evolving customer needs, need for agility, and constant pressure on cost reduction. This calls for planning and executing transformation holistically. Edgeworth's portfolio of offerings enables enterprises thrive during such disruption, with platforms delivering AI and automation and a comprehensive services ecosystem for ease of consumption. This includes their enterprise grade automation platform, AI platform, and AI ready business application in the area of demand and supply chain, procurement, and consumer lending. Thanks for joining, Mr. Guha.
Thank
To
you.
introduce Mr. Guha is the Senior Director, Product Management for the Assist Edge platform with specific focus around intelligent automation and ecosystem development. He is responsible for enabling Assist Edge to play a more strategic role in enterprise automation while driving innovation through a marketplace construct. He has over 20 years of experience across business consulting, technology, and entrepreneurship. In his prior roles, he has driven large transformation programs, built a cyber consulting practice, and developed an AI platform for intelligent process validation. He has worked in the space of public policy formulation and engaged with governments, industry associations, and think tanks during the World Economic Forum and Data Security Council of India. He is passionate around driving business transformation using data, cloud architecture, and agile thinking. Guha studied engineering at IIT Madras, followed by an MBA at IIM Bangalore, and he is a great guy to speak. I've spoken to him a couple of times. Wonderful person, Mr. Gohan. Now will speak on the topic of aiming automation singularity. And Mr. Guha, over to you for the next 20 minutes.
Super. Thanks, Sunil. Are you able to see my screen right now?
Not it.
Okay, so let me just add a few slides. I thought it will help us frame the conversation.
Yes.
Let me just share my screen. Has it come up right now?
Yes, it is coming up right now. Just give a second. So it is started showing us that yes, now it is fully there.
Super. So what I will do over the next 15 odd minutes, Sunil, 15, 20 odd minutes is to talk through certain thoughts that we had based on our conversations with customers around what are their key priorities uh, pre-COVID, during COVID, etc., and how they are kind of tackling through the disruption and addressing this. What are the key levers that they see? And we framed a concept called automation singularity, which we believe acts as a good North Star to guide our vision. And that's something which I thought might be of value to the broader community. So we'll talk to that. And finally, we'll also talk a bit around, what are the key steps that organizations need to take? What do they need to look out for as they move towards, as they go down this direction? If, with that broad context, let me just, as usual, okay, yeah. So I hope the slide did change for you guys. I had
Yes,
some trouble changing at my end.
no, it
Cool.
changed
So,
for us.
yeah, thank you. So, again, a bunch of data points out here, but I guess the key message that I want to leave us with is automation is not about doing things cheaper and faster. It is definitely about doing things better. And finally, it all comes down to the customer and how we can deliver a better customer journey. That has always got to be the fundamental premise on which we take all our decisions. And what was interesting was a year back, we spoke to customers, spoke to analysts, and they said building customer journeys is the top thing on their roadmap. And even when they were looking at back office automation, they were always looking at how this kind of ties back to their customers and how this could help their customers deliver services better, how they could create new products and services. And that's the key part. And some data points, again, very interesting, that some of the surveyed customers felt that the end customer, the consumer, is willing to pay additionally if he gets a better journey. I think the Apple as a role model also demonstrates that if you provide a superior experience, you can charge a premium. And I think that's fundamental when we talk of automation, because oftentimes the conversation gets seen more as a cost reduction exercise. The second key part of this is around how do you create new capability? Can I deliver faster? Can I deliver better? Is there a way in which I can offer a service that was not possible earlier? Again, one of the examples that we have seen with one of our logistics customer was it used to take him close to a day to issue a quote. And one of their key business challenges was how do we now get more customers as the economy is getting challenging? And this was pre-COVID. And some of the formulations was, should we reduce cost? Should we try out new markets, etc.? And when we spoke to them, one of our thoughts was instead of taking decisions around cost, etc., can we just see if we can make the entire process of issuing a code much faster, much easier? It was a complex program because it was a combination again of leveraging technology and AI, but we were able to bring the process down from a full day to something like less than an hour. And this was complex because the code had to span around 23 systems. There was a huge amount of data to be pulled, diligence to be done, etc. But once we were able to give codes much faster, what they found was they didn't have to reduce prices. In fact, they could even charge a premium in certain segments, and their business model changed. Third key part around, while again the spends are increasing, you hear a bunch of data around how technology is a strategic driver. You see a lot more spends on technology. But what's even more important, which we need to bear in mind, is that your technology spends and your digital strategy needs to be well aligned. And again, we'll speak about this in a bit, but often there is a tendency to throw automation at the low hanging fruit. But what you might find is that achieving optima in narrow pockets does not give you benefits in the long run unless you have thought through the entire journey. So, given these customer demands, what we believe is that you can achieve them, you can deliver them holistically, only if you can bring together meaningful convergence of automation and AI. And I had just listed out a few adjectives at the bottom of the screen. We need to start thinking around how does this make your process more agile? In these COVID times, one of the things we all learned is that the ability by which for certain businesses they needed to work completely remotely. Some were successful, some were not, and obviously the successful companies ended up thriving through this disruption. The others need to figure out how to change the model. The second piece is around driving hyper productivity. If you want to deliver 10x the performance at the same cost structure, what do you need to do differently? Because obviously you can't drive the principle of working harder or trying to juice out output. You need to look at more transformative change. The third piece is around consistency. Again, the more you can have a predictive execution engine, the more ability you have to experiment with your customers. Because you, for example, you can guarantee a customer that I'll give you 24-hour delivery, or I'll give you, if there is a mistake, if there's a quality issue, I will pay for it. And you're able to do that because you have that much greater consistency in your execution engine. The last piece is scalability. Can I, on a very short notice, spike up my execution engine 10x? If there is a change in product, can I switch from one product to another, etc.? Again, becomes very important. And we believe these capabilities can be delivered if you can meaningfully pull together automation and AI. And then what this does is you start looking at your workforce very differently. You're no longer thinking about bots, counting the number of bots you have, counting the number of automation systems you have. Because let's face it, you are going to have humans, you are going to have machines, and they serve very different functions. We believe the future workforce has to be something which brings about the best in both. Humans can understand the end consumer better, figure out what makes a great customer journey. They can empathize with customer pain. They can associate themselves with customer aspirations, which are extremely important. And on the other hand, you also have productivity and consistency, which probably can be executed by a bot, a digital worker. So we believe the future is more in terms of bringing these two together. And while it seems straightforward, the reality is there are multiple ways in which you can do this wrong. And we have learned this through our customer interactions. There is an element of cultural change, there is an element of governance that needs to happen to get the future workforce right. So I had earlier referenced automation singularity. Our view is as you move from rule-based automation and which is the simple stuff, the next step is you start leveraging what we call intelligent components. You're looking at the ability of, let's say, reading a document using one of these document extraction engines on cloud, on-prem, etc. You have the ability to do sentiment analysis, understand voice. You might have the ability to, let's say, generate language, classify stuff, etc. Right? That's the next step where you're talking about leveraging data, viewing the process holistically rather than tactically. That's the next step as you move towards intelligent automation. We believe there is a lot more value to be extracted at the intelligent automation level, which goes well beyond task automation. Once you start looking at business SLAs, once you start viewing the process holistically, there's a lot that can be done in this stage. Moving the envelope further, and this is really more of an aspiration, this is a challenge for all of us, is to say, can we move from just executing tasks well, executing processes well, to building an engine which continuously learns, autocorrects. If it has an end objective, a business mission, if you will, can it figure out how to price products, which channel to deliver products by, how to execute, how to prioritize the execution? If there is customer queries, how to handle customer queries? Can we build a continuous optimization engine? And this is certain companies have achieved this in certain pockets. But there's so much potential out here. And drilling a bit more into this, we talk about maturity levels of intelligence. Again, there are different formulations. I've seen formulations of 4. There are certain formulations of 7 levels. But the key part out here is we need to recognize that there are different levels of automation intelligence. And at the lower levels, we are operating more tactically. We are looking at rules, advanced rules, etc. And as we gain maturity, you start looking at, can I have intelligent alerts? The next step might be, better than alerts, can I have self-correcting mechanisms so that even before the problem occurs, I can actually fix it and then inform the process designer and the process operator that this was an issue, but I have proactively taken these measures. Pushing the envelope further as we move closer towards automation singularity, we start saying, why does a customer need or the process designer have to define out so many details? Should the broad role be to say, these are the kind of information that we want to collect, these are the resources that you have available, but can the engine build the capability to pull the resources, human and machine and bot resources, pull them together, have the broad objective and start delivering onto them? And as you start talking about this and in our conversations with customers, what we find is the questions move from being purely around technology and implementation, which is relatively easier, towards questions around ethics, questions around fairness and transparency, and how do you manage risk in a more proactive fashion? Because clearly, as you move here, you start dealing with systems which might behave kind of strangely. It might you start getting into the gray area where it is neither right nor wrong, because that's the inherent variability that is there in AI systems. And how do you start handling this? How do you educate risk? How do you educate customers around this? The conversations become a bit more nuanced, right? And but why is it worth the pain? We believe, and we have seen this ourselves, we've seen it with our customers, that the change that you can deliver is significant. We are looking at customer CSAT scores going dramatically up. From a business productivity in certain segments, we have seen them significantly outperform their competition in those areas, because for you. For certain customers, the key objective is revenue growth. For others, it is agility, and for somebody else, it might be cost. Till you have this defined out what you want to achieve, it's difficult for you to lay out your short-term programs. The second is communicating with a variety of stakeholders. This would be the business users. This would include technology. It includes operations, includes risk. Extremely important to talk to risk, because you want to be proactive around what could go wrong, what kind of controls you have. From a change management, we are looking at the key levers in terms of how do you bring in the right expertise, how do you make sure you do a necessary skill upgradation, because often there is this fear factor of what you're getting into. From a process perspective, this calls for a different governance. You want to have, while there have been COEs, RPA COEs, process management COEs, you want to kind of have a structure which can pull these pieces together and then leverage the right kind of technology. But again, from an order perspective, I'd always put the people first, get the processes right, and then the technology. And we spoke about risk. There are a different gamut of risks that come once you start about automating at scale in AI. and you want to be proactive on risk rather than reacting to them after the event. So that's all I had, and happy for questions, Sunil.
Sure. Thanks, Guha. That was really enlightening for everyone here. Before I'm just looking at a couple of questions coming up. The first question which we have is, what are the key risks to be considered while driving towards automation singularity?
Yeah, so the I had alluded to some of this. One of them is you have started going down the path of automating in narrow pockets without considering what's your broad vision. And we have seen many customers have this challenge that while the individual projects have been successful, their overall program has not achieved success, either in terms of reduction of process time or reduction in cost. All they have achieved is shaved off a few hours here and there, but it doesn't add up finally, because those people cannot be moved out. The process still takes its time. Second has been a challenge around communication and how do you manage risk. How do you communicate the impacts of this, because there is a whole bunch of fears and uncertainties that get generated. A third key challenge that I have seen is, especially when it comes to AI, is the challenge of people swinging from being complete skeptics to believing that it can deliver absolute magic. And the reality obviously lies somewhere in between. To educate people around what is doable, what is not, and how do you make sure you have meaningful risk controls to ensure that if you are going to be using automation in AI, you have some transparent controls that can be deployed so that downside can be protected. I think it's extremely important as you start your initial pilots and scale. You want to make sure you do it in calibrated steps, and at no point should you have something by which a single small mistake scales up very rapidly, because that's the nature of automation.
You spoke about AI and intelligence. So, my second question is, how do organizations move towards building intelligence in their business processes?
Yeah, so the what we have seen in this, Sunil, is organizations typically I had thrown up a maturity ladder. Typically, they start with simple steps. The first step might be to leverage AI in a relatively tactical fashion. We have seen document extraction as one area where AI gets used because it's very easy to understand. Business users appreciate it, and so that's the first step. Another area, another channel in which we have seen AI being used is more in an augmentation mode, where it doesn't automate, it doesn't do anything, but it guides you. And it tells you that these are the key risks that you might want to look out for. And in that sense, stakeholders also build confidence that the engine is pointing out the right things. It helps them save time without necessarily threatening them in terms of the risk to make a mistake, right? And the third piece is when you start leveraging contextual AI and going down the path of autonomy, you want to pick those processes where the risks are relatively lower, and you always retain control with the process designer in terms of logs, in terms of the decisions that have been taken by that, so that you can always do a continuous audit. I think these are key aspects. Likewise, I spoke about transparency, extremely important that you want to make sure people understand. You need to understand how much you understand about the AI and which are the black boxes. Because if you cannot have a open, transparent conversation around what you understand about the model and what you don't, it just creates a lot more uncertainty.
Thanks, Goha. So, coming to the topic of the Indian entrepreneurs, I would like to take your view. You being an entrepreneur yourself, how can startups participate in this broad vision of automation and with specifics to automation singularity?
That's a great question, because while while organizations do want to move towards singularity, there is a huge gap between capability and actual on ground delivery. Because AI, by definition, needs to be contextualized both in terms of capability and in terms of communication. And that's the place where I see a whole variety of products and solutions come up, uh, to contextualize this problem. It could be in terms of helping reach out to customers better. It could be in terms of improved allocation of tasks, or it could be in terms of operational efficiency. The whole bunch of areas. I think from a startup perspective, I think it's key to identify problems narrowly, focus on them, rather than try to solve the entire problem as a big one that you want to solve. My suggestion, based on my learnings here, would be look at this problem very sharply, have a solution that customers can identify with and appreciate, and build sophistication over time rather than try to target it on day one.
Thanks, Goha. It was a wonderful session, and your answers were really apt for the moment. Thanks a lot. And thanks to the organizers for giving me and Mr. Guha a chance to share our views on automation. Thanks to everyone who have been a part of this session. Thank you. Thanks, Rupali. Over to you.
Thanks,
Thank
Sunil. Thanks for having me. Over to you, Rupali.
Thank you so much, Mr. Guha, and thank you so much, Mr. Putoda. It was a wonderful session, and I truly and honestly want to wish you all the very best for your future endeavors. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you so much.